I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk.
What's up, everybody? Good evening. It's Dan with another Damn Fantasy podcast. And of course, Trevor is with me here. As always, we got the show presented by Stadium Rant. Check them out, www.stadiumrant.com, where you can take in not just the video content and the podcast content that we're putting out. Of course, you can follow NFL on Stadium Rant and Spotify and anywhere you're taking in that content. But we're putting out a lot of articles, whether it's speculation, the rumor mill, analysis, and it's all from fans of those teams and people that are truly passionate about who they root for on Sundays. And really, it's across any sport, not just the NFL. So make sure you check them out. Trevor, how are we feeling tonight?
Man, I am pumped. Talked about a little bit pre-show. One of my favorite times of the year. You know, in fantasy football, there's like pockets, right? You kind of start the NFL season and back in March where you're getting ready for the draft, the free agent market. So you're thinking dynasty right into the rookie drafts.
Right.
You get a lull over the summertime. August hits, you're drafting. You're pumped up. Then the playoffs are. But now it's the NFL playoffs. And it's a whole different ball game for fantasy football. I am stoked for this episode. I love playoff fantasy football. DFS. We've got FFPC for you today. We might be able to rip an Underdog draft for you today. I've got a fantasy football league that we want to talk through a little bit. It's kind of a different style of playoff fantasy football. There's so many options out there. I am pumped up to talk through this with everybody today. And Dan, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. I can't believe we're already done with the redraft and the dynasty portion of it, right? 18 weeks came by like that. But this part, the playoff side of things is not something that I've done a lot of, here and there, just kind of mess around with different things. But, I'm really excited to break into it a lot this year and take that knowledge of the playoffs and apply it into fantasy and just kind of see what kind of rewards we can reap from all of it. So, yeah,
100%.
Man,
I'm much excited. Of it is, and you'll hear us talk about it, but so much of it is trying to navigate the idea, like who's going to win these matchups. So if you are ingrained in the NFL and you have ideas about who's going to be winning and moving on and who's going to the Super Bowl, you can build all these types of lineups around that, whether it's drafting lineups, whether it's playing FFPC or in our fantasy league. So that's kind of like, that's the starting block of all of it, right? And
right.
You've got that NFL knowledge. You're ingrained in it. You're talking about it all the time. And so you just kind of take that knowledge and now you spin it into picking a player here and there. You pull the right levers, you get the right Super Bowl matchup, and you might end the Super Bowl with a little bit more than just pride this year. Maybe you put a little cash in your pockets.
Yeah, and I'm super excited about just the playoffs in general, right? There's a lot of good AFC teams, a couple of good NFC teams, but it really could go any way on especially the AFC side of things. So this just adds it's like the cherry on top of a beautiful playoff Sunday.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Tyler here checking in for the Cowboys. Cowboys taking on Tampa Bay. Their Monday night football game. So that'll be a good game. We'll see if Dak can finally pull through in the playoffs. And these Cowboys, man, it feels like every year they're the laughing stock of the NFL come playoff time. But maybe this year is a little bit different.
Tom Brady and the Cowboys is like the NFL's wet dream. I mean, it's going to be a great matchup. Something that two big fan bases, two of the bigger fan bases in the NFL, right? The Cowboys and Tom Brady. So
Tom Brady has his own fan base.
He has his own
Brady's fan base.
I mean, he's probably, if you're ranking fan bases, he got to be top 20. I think I can name 12 teams that probably have a smaller fan base than Tom Brady.
Maybe even more, right? Maybe even more. If you are here with us, hit that like button, jump into the chat as we go. I'd love to hear from our listeners. Just want to talk through this. Maybe you're in a different fantasy football contest that we're not even talking about. Let us know in the chat. Let us know who your favorite plays are as we talk through this stuff. Just be here with us. We love to talk with our chat here.
Yep. Absolutely. So let's before we get into all the fun, let's jump into some news around the NFL. Not a whole lot, so we can kind of, brush through this pretty quick and get to the meat and potatoes, the exciting stuff for the show tonight. Just looking at a couple quarterbacks in the AFC, Lamar Jackson, PCL injury about 6 weeks ago. 1 to 2 weeks was the original diagnosis, and now he's got swelling, and we're hearing from Ian Rappaport that it's going to be an uphill battle for him to get onto the field this Sunday against the Bengals. I mean, we were expecting him to play during the last few weeks of the regular season, and now it's like, what the hell's going on? And then Tua still hasn't cleared concussion protocols and has been ruled out.
Ruled out, yep.
Bengals and Bills fans can, dry those tears a little bit more. Stop crying about the Chiefs getting the 1 seed.
That's right.
Feels like they got to buy themselves.
Yeah, quarterbacks are king in the NFL, and both these teams coming into the playoffs limping at the quarterback position. The Ravens, you would think, have a kind of an upper hand because they've been playing their backup quarterback for now 6 weeks or whatnot, whereas the Dolphins have been changing their backup quarterback because Bridgewater also got hurt, and Skylar Thompson comes out and puts up a 9 spot against the Jets. The Dolphins score 11, but I mean, 9 of that's from the offense. Not looking solid for the Dolphins this week.
Yeah.
And I think the Bengals-Ravens game is probably very similar to the outcome last week. If not, lower scoring even more because it's the third time these teams have seen each other.
Yep.
And as we know, it's third time. It's just more hard fought because the teams know everything about them. But I think the Bengals and Bills both get through pretty easily out of the first round.
Right. And now it's do or die, right? You add that to that mix of the divisional matchup, third time. They're gonna put up a fight. The Ravens are. I'm not sure about the Dolphins, but the Ravens most certainly are.
Well, that defense for the Ravens for sure.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And the Bengals took their foot off the gas last week. It was kind of wrapped up. They really put it in cruise control. If Huntley's playing, maybe it's a little bit different. Maybe that Bengals defense and that Bengals offense, they put the pedal to the metal a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, man, I'm with you. I think we're on the same page here with what the end result's going to be for sure.
Yeah, not going to look pretty for either one of those two teams. Definitely not teams I'm picking upsets for. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Keeping it in the AFC with one of the other big time injuries, at least fantasy related. Mike Williams, what the heck is Brandon Staley doing?
What in the heck is he doing?
He keeps
Why
the
did they play the whole game?
He not only did he keep the starters in, not only did he keep them in after both Bosa and Williams got hurt, but he kept them in well into the third quarter. Going into, it was. What were we, a couple minutes into the fourth quarter by the time Chase Daniel finally stepped on the field? What the hell? And the Broncos were whooping their ass. There's no reason for them to be in.
It was quite tilting, honestly, having some DFS stuff going on, some pick'ems just from like NFL pick'ems going on, because you expect the Ravens lost. So the Chargers had absolutely nothing to play for. Give your team a rest. I expected if the Ravens win or if the Ravens lose, the Chargers will just sit everybody. What's the point at that? They weren't playing at the same time. Most of the games were played at the same time that teams knew, right? If the teams knew they needed something, not this one. Why did you go? That just baffled me. I couldn't believe they went ahead and played their starters that long.
Yeah, man. Brandon Staley. If he wasn't already on thin ice, I can't imagine what's going to happen if the Jaguars somehow upset them this weekend. We'll see how that all plays out. The final piece here before we move it into your fantasy football league and what that all entails, which I'm really excited for, is the officials, right? So they made all their assignments and there were some big names missing. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe
does this mean that's what I was going to ask you. Does this mean we're never going to see this guy? Because
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Don't tell me this JA deserved a bye week just to be an Arrowhead next week.
So it's Carl Cheffers, obviously, who we're talking about here. Any Chiefs fan can probably pick that up from a mile away. No assignment this week. Other notable poor official names out there, Ron Torbert and John Hussey, who have made a lot of questionable calls, not just in Chiefs games, but in the NFL as a whole. Just a lot of funny business whenever they're on the field.
Yeah.
All three of them are missing from this week's lineup. Among some other guys, no Cleet Blakeman this week. I'm not just like an official connoisseur either. It's more just like people that have, ruffled my feathers throughout
It's
the
the
regular
ones you
season with
know.
some
Yeah.
inconsistency. And yeah,
It's like
you look for
it's
those
like the
guys.
bad kid in class. Like, I know this kid because he's the bad kid in class. Like, we know these refs because they're the ones that just screw what feels like they're screwing up time and time again, or it's the timing of the calls that they're making.
Right.
And of course, it's, as a fan, you still kind of feel one-sided a lot of the time too. That's how, a lot of us feel about Carl Cheffers as well, because anytime he refs the Chiefs games, the penalties are off the chart, especially defensively.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it truly does sway the result of not just
Absolutely.
like a fantasy game where they're taking points away from your players, but your bets, the unders or the point totals get affected from their officiating. I mean, it's like a chain reaction. And if you do all of the things related to football, like I do, betting on the games or playing fantasy or pick'ems or whatever, they can get on your nerves. That's for sure.
Absolutely. We got a couple. Staley should lose his job. I don't know if he should lose his job, but it wasn't a good move. And it wasn't a good look for him either. I don't know how the players would react, but I don't feel like the players reacted very well in that case.
Yeah. As far as Brandon Staley goes, I mean, he probably would have gotten fired if they didn't make the playoffs, but they did end up stringing some things together to get in. Went on a, 4-game win streak before they dropped that last one to the Broncos, but they really had nothing to play for. But that's what just makes it even more head scratching about it, is like the playing the starters. They had nothing to play for, no change in the seating that could have happened. And, I could absolutely, I think it would be justified if he was fired. I'll put it that way. I think it would be justifiable. Like, you would have a case.
Yeah. And Lee says Jags will win. It's a toss up to me. I think it's a coin
50-50.
flip this week in that game. Staley is on the hot seat for next year if he doesn't win the West next year with that roster. Look, I like the Chargers coming into the playoffs, and close your ears, Chiefs fans. If this team comes to Arrowhead next week, I am not going to be feeling confident all week long.
We're going to get a fight.
Absolutely. Both games this year were very close. Justin Herbert is the real deal, and they have plenty of athletes around him this year. The injuries have absolutely hurt them, and I don't think that 85% of the time they don't come into Arrowhead next week and beat the Chiefs, but I do think there is a percentage that is not zero that the Chargers could win that game next week if they were to beat the Jags this week.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that, in the playoff fantasy league that we're about to talk about, this is a team that I don't mind targeting in some instances, because it's going to be a shootout with Jacksonville is what I would presume. In order to beat the Chiefs, it's going to have to be a shootout. And then they go to Buffalo or Cincinnati. They were going to have to, like Justin Herbert is going to have to win these games.
Yep.
If that is the case. And Brandon Staley is a very aggressive coach. Can he get back to that Brandon Staley he's been in the past? Maybe. And obviously Saturday night, Jacksonville could just beat them, and this is all for nothing. But this is a team that I do think has a true chance to make a run that's not the top 3 in the AFC.
No, I could absolutely see it. If you look at every Mahomes and Herbert matchup, it's been decided by one possession. There's not been a blowout on either side, and they've all scored in the 20s, right? So it's like points are going to be scored, and especially in this Chargers and Jaguars game. I mean, if you're trying to grab players from that game and plug them into your fantasy lineups for any of these playoff contests that we're going to, talk about tonight, you would be making a savvy move, I think.
Absolutely. And I will be building one lineup with them. I'm in 3 of these different leagues. So one of the leagues will definitely have a Charger stack in it. I do want to, I just want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on this Sean Payton stuff? Sean Payton coaching Herbert would be awesome. Absolutely. Sean Payton coaching Kyler Murray would be awesome.
Yeah.
Coaching Russell Sean Payton coaching would be awesome, right?
I mean, he talked about it a little bit on Sunday, right? For week 18, kind of the speculation, what it would take for him to get out of there. Obviously, the Saints would have to agree to a trade, some sort of compensation. They're looking for a first-round draft pick. So first, you got to kind of look at teams that have that capital to give up, and they want more than a first-round pick. So it's going to take a couple more, mid to late round selections as well. And so a team's got to look at themselves and say, do I have the firepower? Do I want to get rid of it if I do have it? And then Sean Payton has to look at himself and say, do I want to coach a team that plays in this division? And if you're looking at the Chargers or the Broncos, it's the AFC West. If you're choosing the Broncos, then you play Mahomes and Justin Herbert 2 times a year. If you're choosing the Chargers, assuming Staley vacates that job, so that's another piece that has to move, then you're playing Patrick Mahomes 2 times a year. And you've got 2 other teams in that division who, maybe could be a couple pieces away. I know we said that about the Broncos last year. They got a quarterback and stunk it up, but a change in direction.
Just didn't get the coach.
Yeah, exactly. They can flip that around, I think, with just one offseason. So those are all things to consider. And when you're looking at the NFC, the Cardinals are a very talked about job for Sean Payton. Kyler Murray tore his ACL late in the season and likely won't be available until late October, early November. So Peyton would have to ask himself, do I want to put myself in that situation where they're trying to shop their star wide receiver, one of the best generational talents on defense just retired, and Kyler Murray isn't going to be playing? I mean, there's a lot of pieces in Arizona that don't make sense too. So I don't know. I mean, a lot's up in the air, and a return to the Saints maybe isn't out of the question either.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of speculation. I'm excited to get into a lot of off-season stuff as we go on. And you said Saints, I'm like, the first thing that came to my mind when you said Saints, they got to find a quarterback. They got to find a quarterback. You can't be running out dusty old Andy Dalton or, interception man Jameis Winston. So, and Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. So you got to figure something out there in New Orleans. But let's talk fantasy football for the playoffs.
Let's do it.
Let's get into this. We'll start with my league. I run a fantasy football league for playoffs. It's very interesting. Pick whoever you want. There's no drafting. There's no salary caps. You can literally just pick and play the best plays who you think are the best plays. I want to preference this with, I did not create this. I am actually in a different playoff league that has nearly 100 people in it. It's a little bit more cost to get in. So if anybody's out there and you like my league and you're like, I want more of that, hit me up. I can get you in that league as well. $900 to the first place last year in that league. So definitely a lot more participants and a little bit of higher buy-in, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. And essentially, I'm going to show my screen. What we're looking at here for this playoff league is you're going in and you're choosing who you want to play: a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense. You pick it. And then it's regular fantasy points, regular scoring. We've got, 6-point touchdown pass, 6-point rushing touchdown, 6 points for TDs, 1 point for reception. Just very standard fantasy football points.
Typical.
However, exactly how your season-long fantasy points are very similar anyways to your season-long, right? But you get to choose. Now, the caveat here is the further you take a player, the more you get, the more you multiply. So if I take Josh Allen in round 1 and Josh Allen wins, I can take Josh Allen in round 2, but now I get times 2 points. So if he scores, 25 fantasy points, I'm actually getting a 50 spot, right? And then if I take him into round 3, the Bills keep winning. I keep taking Josh Allen as far as I want, right? So you're getting to take those multipliers each and every week, which brings in strategy to me. And what I want to do here, I want to give a little bit of ideas around strategy, and I want to show a little bit of the history of it and the history of some leagues that I'm in and kind of where the scoring comes from and how people have won these things before. But before I pull that up, Dan, off the top, any thoughts around this type of fantasy league?
No, I mean it's pretty standard, right? As far as the scoring goes. So I think everybody, that's a concept that they're going to be able to get if you're jumping into a league like this. Like you know that a touchdown is 6 points if your running back runs it in. You know, if the quarterback throws an interception, you're losing some points. That's just kind of the name of the game. But really, it's also it's kind of like merging a playoff pick'em with fantasy football. So you're almost choosing which teams that you think are going to be alive further down the road, so you can maximize that multiplier, which is what I love so much about it, because it's like the ultimate test of your football knowledge. It's not just fantasy. It's not just how good of a feeling do I have for this playoff team. It's both of those things combined, and you have a chance to capitalize on that, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And I'm going to show some history of some scores and some winning lineups here, because what you're going to see in every single lineup that's at the top, no matter what league it's in, they had the multipliers, right? The times 3s or the times 4s, and in almost, as many spots as possible. Going back to last year, every league, Mahomes, Mixon, Cup. This lineup here was the nuts, and then Kelsey. Honestly, this was everything. Everybody had Mahomes, Mixon, and Cup, and they took them all the way to the championship games where Mahomes fell off. Mixon and Cup move on to the Super Bowl, so now you have Mixon and Cup times 4. Obviously, we all know Cup's last year's season, and his playoff season was just as good. He absolutely dominated. But when you get to the actual guy who wins the league, so this is the biggest league that I'm showing you now, the one that's got close to 100 entries, he also had Matt Stafford. And this is where I want to talk a little bit about game theory. If we look at this lineup, he takes Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Matt Gay, and the Rams defense. So he takes 4 players from an NFC team from the very beginning, and he pairs them with 2 Bengals and 1 Chief. And so as he takes all these players to the championship week, if the Rams win the NFC championship game, he's guaranteed to have at least one AFC times 4 player, right? Because he brought Kelsey along with him. Mixon and Jamar Chase are the ones that actually end up as the times 4. So yeah, he's got 1 tight end that's not. And if you remember last year, the tight ends in the Super Bowl were actually bad. I think Higbee got hurt or something.
Yep.
Blanton scored 0. Uzama scored 1 or 2, depending on your scoring. And so he ends up winning the whole thing with essentially, he's saying from day one, the Rams are going to the Super Bowl, and they're going to play either the Chiefs or the Bengals, and he hit it, right? Exactly what you said. You have to figure out who's going to play the Super Bowl, and you want to figure that out as early as possible and try to stack that up in some way possible. Going back to 2021, it was actually the same person won this back-to-back years, which I was super jealous about.
What a stud.
Yeah, right? So going back to 2021, right? It's Brady to Godwin, Suckup, and the Bucks. He runs back the same type of lineup with the Rams the following year. He has Henry and A.J. Brown from the Eagles and Mark Andrews. I don't like this one as much because in this situation, he's running an NFC quarterback and 2 other NFC players. If I'm going to run the quarterback, I want to run that team. Like that's just the way. If I'm taking Mahomes, I want the Chiefs on the AFC, and I'll deal with the NFC differently. I don't want to take 2 AFC teams, just the way that I play it. So you can do that. But then there's one other piece here, Dan, I want to mention. The bye weeks. So the Eagles and the Chiefs play the bye or have the bye weeks this year. You can't play those players in round one.
Right.
But it could be an Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl, right? So how do you get to that point? And that's what I'm going to show you here. The one that I won back in 2020. I got a little bit lucky because all of my players lost in the first round, so it kind of forced me to do this anyways. But ever since then, this is what I've done since this happened.
Mm-hmm.
All my players lose in the first week, so now I have to pivot to the second week anyways. I'm forced to do that. So I take – back then there was 2 buys, but I take the Chiefs, 49ers starting in round 1, and I ran them through the Super Bowl. And I get a huge championship game by Raheem Mostert back then, giving me 92 points. Like, he dominated. And this is the non-PPR league that we're looking at right now. Absolutely dominates, gets me to the Super Bowl. But I take the 49ers and the Chiefs as early as possible, so I'm sitting on ×3 with every single player in the Super Bowl. It catapults me to a championship game. So that's one strategy, is just trying to find the 2 Super Bowl teams as early as possible. How do you feel about that strategy?
No, I love it. Obviously that's the name of the game. Build up as many of those multipliers as possible before you get to that final round, which would be the Super Bowl in these instances. So, if you're able to, especially for, quarterbacks, I think that's the big one that you want to find the multiplier for as early as possible. Followed by tight end, right? Because that's such a hard position to gauge anyway. And if you're able to get a stud and get a multiplier going on that player, then I think you'll be set up pretty well. I think that's what the running theme is, besides that Blanton spot there, is that all these teams, at the tight end spot, they've got a big name. Gronk, I'm looking at Gronk here, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, Kittle. Those are all guys that are going to put up big numbers. So, and then it's also like playing the matchup, right? And that's part of predicting where you think teams are going to win and those different scenarios that are going to come down as the playoffs progress. So, no, I love that strategy. I think that's a great way to approach it, especially if you take a flyer on a couple of guys in the wild card round and then go from there. So
see what happens. Another strategy that I've seen quite often, and it ended up actually in 3rd place back in 2021, is a full team stack. So this person takes, that we're looking at right here in the middle of the screen, takes full on Buccaneers in round 1. Tom Brady, Ronald Jones, Chris Godwin, Gronk, Antonio Brown, if we all remember him, Ryan Suckup, and the Bucs defense. Just goes a full-on Tampa Bay stack and carries them all 4 weeks into the Super Bowl, so they have an entire team at ×4, and it works out, right? They end up 3rd place. Not a bad payday in a huge contest like this. The only argument I have against this is I think you're missing your ceiling. I don't think you can hit, the ceiling that this top one does whenever they throw in, even if it's later in the week or later in the rounds, he throws in Fournette and Ronald Jones, I guess at the same point at that point. But he throws in a Travis Kelce late. It's late, but he still gets to Travis Kelce, still gets Kelce ×2 in the
it's a multiplier.
Whereas when you're running out everybody, you see a lot of like 0, 0, 2, 2, 0. And it's not the same guy every week. Godwin goes for, 33 in round 3 and then 0 in the Super Bowl. Right? Gronk goes from 0.26 to 72 in the Super Bowl. But really what you want is you want to hit that every week. You want Godwin to hit every week, or you want Gronk to hit every week. You're not going to get that in a full game stack or a full team stack, in my opinion. Again, it's definitely a viable strategy. It absolutely works if you pick the right team. I just don't know that. And honestly, if they play Fournette over Ronald Jones, they potentially win this thing, right?
Yeah.
Just by taking all the Buccaneers. I didn't do the math, but just by looking at Fournette's scores, it looks like they probably could have won this thing. not necessarily strategy I'm going to run out, but I wanted to kind of throw that out there for the people as well. What do you think about running a full team stack from week 1?
I don't know how much I love that, to be honest with you. Unless there's like, I don't know, in 2020, if just kind of taking that as the example, it was clear that the Chiefs were kind of the cream of the crop. They were going to make another run, and everyone believed in Brady in his first year, even though they were a wild card team that season. No one thought they were losing to the football team of Washington. No one thought they were going to lose to the New Orleans Saints, even though the Saints beat them twice in the regular season that year. And it just felt a little different with that team and all the talent that they had on it, that midseason acquisition with the Antonio Brown. So it's like, what you want to do if you're going to do that full team stack is, try and pick a favorite. And it's hard to do it. I feel like the favorites this year have a bye this week. So, that's not really a strategy maybe I would approach this year. Maybe mix in a couple of players, maybe some teams that you think might be underdog choices for the Super Bowl, or at least are going to get to the AFC Championship round,
Yeah. Absolutely. And that, maybe a Bill stack, but even then, like, you don't like those running backs. Like, I don't like the running backs. I don't mind. And also, I don't really like Dawson Knox when you have guys like George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Hayden Hurst. I like him better than Dawson Knox right now. Dallas Goedert is out there. So, even thinking about that, you can get better tight ends than running out Dawson Knox. This is what it is, right? This is the strategy that I roll with, and that I'm going to continue to try to take it down with. And then that's the beginning, right? You have to get the Super Bowl teams right. Like, yeah, that's it. You got to get that right.
That's the bottom line. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we go back real quick, every single one of it, Stafford, if we look at this championship, Stafford, Kupp, Gay, Rams, got Mixon and Chase. Stafford, Kupp, Mixon, or I guess Mixon just Kupp there. This one had Mixon and Kupp as well. You go to a different league, it's the same thing, Mixon and Kupp. All these guys that were ×4, ×2, they're hitting these Super Bowl winners early and just riding them all the way out. And that's really what you got to do. I think what's going to be difficult for people is making a pivot. And you don't have to make a pivot, but that's your next strategy that I would, you can say pick your two and roll until you have to pivot. I personally like to pivot earlier. I like to lay this out ahead of time. I try to actually build my Super Bowl lineup and then back it up. So what I mean by that is maybe I want the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl against, say, the Cowboys. All right, what do I want that Super Bowl to look like? How are they going to get there, right? Dallas, I think, is going to get there through Pollard. Chiefs will get there through Mahomes and Kelce and Butker and their defense, whatever the case is. But I can't play that in week 1. So maybe I want to play Josh Allen in week 1. I have to be willing to make that pivot. And I think that's where a lot of people start to fall off. Not because they don't think that Bills are going to win or whatever, but you play a lot of the best plays in week 1, and then you never end up getting to a stack per se. Yep. And I mean, I could show you all the lineups from last year. I showed you the best 3, right? There was plenty of lineups that did not look like that, but I want to come here to give advice on how to build the best lineup. Per the leaderboard, it is finding the right puzzle pieces for 2 teams, one AFC team and one NFC team in either round 1 or round 2. I'm going to reveal, you can show mine on what not to do. I don't want to pull all of last year's stuff, but I definitely could. I will pull up my lineup currently, and Dan, we can show yours here in a moment.
Yep.
At least what they currently are. Mine will not change. I'm pretty set on mine. And I came out firing early with a Bills Cowboys Super Bowl type lineup. So I've got Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, Tyler Bass. I assume Josh Allen will come in super heavy owned this week. Why not? He's the best, one of the best he's the best fantasy quarterback that's on the first game, right? Because Allen and or Hurts and Mahomes are a little bit better, but they're both on the second or not in the first round. And then I go Tony Pollard, Dalton Schultz, because I like Schultz better than I like Dawson Knox. I like Tony Pollard better than I like any of the Bills running backs. And I like the Cowboys defense. I'm actually this year, I'm on the NFC defenses a little bit more, thinking about what we talked about the Chargers earlier. Some of these AFC games I could see being shootout style games, whereas the NFC, I don't feel like they've got as many high potent offenses.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at those NFC matchups, it's really kind of like the defenses are tough too in a lot of those situations,
Yep.
especially for the Cowboys and the Buccaneers matchup. While the Cowboys can put up points in bunches, both of those teams have two high caliber defenses that are going to force pressure on the quarterback, generate turnovers, and make life difficult on those players. The Giants have a phenomenal defense in the other matchup against the Vikings. And then if you're looking at the Niners, their defense is incredible, right? So I think the unders are safe in those games, which, when I look at where the lines are at in Vegas, that a lot of times helps me decide, who I'm going to play in certain matchups and what that looks like.
100%. I love the lines. Like the Chargers Jaguars game looks pretty spicy this week.
I love it.
Vikings Giants being in a dome looks pretty good. They got, I think that's the highest total on the week. So you look for some of those high scoring teams. Anything else on my lineup before I reveal yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys is, that's one of those teams where they're playing in a game that's 50-50, right? I think the Buccaneers Cowboys game is 50-50. I think those three picks that you made, if they go off, they're going to go off, and then you'll get that multiplier into the second round. If not, then you can cut your losses and pick up on another NFC team like the Eagles that you could stack against the Bills. And then your Bills are still carrying that multiplier over where you, like you said earlier, you're making that pivot. So, I like the strategy for sure where you're going with it.
Yeah, I love that. And this is one, not every lineup that I build am I going all it, like I'm building this lineup to take it to the championship game. But the reason I like building like this is exactly what you just said. If the Cowboys were to lose this week, I can easily pivot to Sanders, Goddard, Eagles defense, and just roll with the Bills Eagles stack. If the Cowboys are to win this week and then go to Philly next week, right, I could take the ×2 saying, no, Cowboys are going all the way. If the Cowboys lose that game, I can still pivot to the Eagles and still get a ×2 in the Super Bowl while carrying a ×4 from the Bills. So definitely allows me to still build a nice lineup as I go along. All right, let's reveal your lineup for week 1. You've got Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Stephon Diggs, Evan Ingram, Brett Maher as kicker, and the Bills defense. Talk about your lineup here.
Yeah, so I'm going Bills for AFC. I mean, if you're not going
Cowboys aren't losing.
If you if you're not going with the Chiefs in round 1, which you can't obviously because they've got the bye, then the team that I'm pulling a quarterback and a skill position player off of is the Bills. The Bills play the Miami Dolphins this week with Skylar Thompson. That allows me to feel a lot more comfortable playing their defense this week and seeing what kind of points they're going to be able to put up. And then with my other 3 picks, I'm going Christian McCaffrey because I think the Niners have a really good chance to make it to that NFC Championship game. We have no Eagles. So Christian McCaffrey obviously is a big play there. I really wanted to go with Austin Eckler here, but I needed some NFC players to kind of balance this lineup out. And I felt like CMC would be a good guy that could I could build a multiplier off of as he moves through the playoffs. And then Evan Ingram, out of the tight ends this week, I think he has the highest ceiling in what we both think will be a shootout type of game. Vegas has the line set at 47.5. We saw Ingram go off for like 170 and a couple touchdowns not that long ago. His value's been maximized here. And if this could be a situation where I think the Chargers are going to win this game, so it'll allow me to pivot that position to another player. In my mind, it's probably Travis Kelce or maybe Dallas Goedert next week. But that's kind of where my head's at with the lineup.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that I've seen a lot of is say Evan Ingram loses and then somebody then wants to pivot to George Kittle. Well, if you're going to play George Kittle, just play him now. But if you want to pivot to Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, right? Because anybody else who has George Kittle from round one is going to be beating you all the way through.
Right.
But if you're going to plan to pivot to a team that's on a bye, it gives you that opportunity to kind of jump in early, not be behind. And that happens a lot. A lot of people will end up whatever. Derrick Henry a couple years back when the Titans was a pretty popular play. And then they lose the first game they play. So everybody pivots, to somebody else, but then they're pivoting to like a Raheem Mostert that I had times 3,
right.
But they only have them times 2 because it took them so long to get there. Obviously, anything can happen in the playoffs, and our teams that we think are going to win could definitely lose. But you have to be kind of thinking through that strategy early. And then, the other thing is when you get to round 3, you can see who everybody else is playing. Find that Ronald Jones or whoever that nobody else is going to play. If you're way behind, sprinkle them in there. See what happens, right? Maybe it's Samaje Perine instead of Joe Mixon. Something like that. Just take a shot because ultimately you're never going to surpass all the players who have times 3 unless you get totally different and hit it.
Tyler Boyd instead of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Yep. Those are all viable picks. If you want to go Gabe Davis, right? Like that's another guy you could snag for those big teams.
I wanted to pull this up real quick and we can kind of move on so we don't exhaust this too much. But this is one of my lineups that I'll be putting in a different league. And you see here I put Eagles Chargers. This is my plan for this lineup is to have an Eagles Chargers Super Bowl. And so I start with the Chargers, Eckler, Kittle. This has a flex in it as well, right? So I start with Eckler, Allen, and Dicker the kicker, right? So I've got my 3 Chargers already. And now I can play a bunch of one-offs because I don't have to stack the first round. So I'm trying to find who could be the best quarterback. Josh Allen will be the best quarterback in round 1. But who can beat Josh Allen? To me, I think Daniel Jones and his rushing ability against the Vikings defense could outscore Josh Allen in round 1, right? That's all I'm trying to hope for is get a little bit of an edge in round 1.
Yeah.
Who could be the best tight end in round 1? George Kittle. Who could be the best running back in round 1? Again, potentially Saquon against those same Vikings, and then the Cowboys defense against Tom Brady, who should have retired at the end of last year, right?
Right.
I don't care about those teams winning. I don't care about those players doing anything after round 1. I'm simply just trying to pick the best round 1 players because I already know in round 2, I'm taking Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, Eagles defense. Like I already know that's happening because I've already built it out. So I wanted to just give a visual for that idea that I mentioned earlier. Build it out early and then you can kind of backtrack and find the best one-off plays. And if I'm going to play it one-off, I want to get different than Josh Allen because everybody's going to come in with Josh Allen this week. We know that. Yep. And for good reason.
Absolutely.
For good reason. So, all right. I think that's enough of that. If you want to join this playoff format, shoot me a DM on Twitter at TrevorS_FF. Tweet at me, whatever. Find me somehow, some way, and we will get you in. Taking in people up until Saturday at 3:30 when games start. That's when lineups locked for round 1, which means the contest locks. $10 to enter. It's a super fun playoff format. Jump on in here. It's very clean. Everything's out there. We've got a running leaderboard that's live constantly. After every game, I update all the scores. So jump on in here and shoot me a DM or something. We'll get you in if you're interested in this. Dan, we're going to talk some FFPC, but you showed me a sweet ass ring that you won in fantasy football this year. Last year, right?
Last year, I had a chance to defend the crown, couldn't quite make it, but this ring here from customfantasyrings.com, we will be putting the link in the podcast description where you can go in. I know it's the end of the season, right? It's time to get that hardware for your league, get something that they're going to be proud of, something they're going to show off at the next live draft. And that's something that we were able to put together with Custom Fantasy Draft. So you can see here, we got our championship ring. That's for my family fantasy league. So a lot of meaning there. But it's all customizable, right? They have a ton of different designs, different types of metals. There's some real weight to this thing. And it's pretty cool how you can really take all of those special elements about your championship team and put them into a ring, get some bling, some hardware for to really display those bragging rights. So again, it's customfantasyrings.com. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward name there, where you can get your own hardware and customize it the way that you want. So if you're not the league commissioner, you talk to your commissioner and you get them on that ring train.
That's pretty sick. I'm the commissioner, so maybe I need to
come on, Trevor. What are we doing here?
Look
man?
myself in the mirror, say what is going on here. Get after it. No, that is awesome. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, yeah, we got to talk about that because that's what the people want, man. Give me something. Give me some hardware. Why did I win this league? You know,
you can work it into your league fees, right? Where everyone kind of pitches in on the winner's championship ring. We do trophies. I mean, everyone's got a trophy. Even this league where we've got rings, we have a trophy as well. But you want something you can hold on to long after
right.
The
trophy travels around person to person each
exactly.
year. Like, you want something for yourself.
Exactly.
You want something for this guy won a championship. Dude. We can get into dynasty talk in the offseason, but the kid, he drafted all rookies or really all rookie draft picks in our startup 2 years ago. And 2 years into it, he wins the whole dang thing. It worked out really well for him. I did not think it was going to work out, but it worked out really well for him.
The 2020 draft class is freaking loaded up.
Yeah,
what a year to pull that strategy off, man.
It worked out. They'll probably rest Josh Allen by the third quarter. Potentially, that's for sure. But again, when we're playing in fantasy, we're looking long term. We're looking for Super Bowl, and the Bills have just as great of a chance as everybody else. Obviously,
right.
We know.
And that might not be the case. Last year they put a whooping on the Patriots. I think they were up like 47-3. So
never punted. Perfect game. Tyler, let's talk in the offseason a little bit, man. Especially when it starts to get around dynasty season. Like that's. I wouldn't mind listening to you, hearing what you had to say about it. It was a fun draft, that was for sure. It was weird, but it was a fun draft. Let's talk about FFPC. I'm going to pull up an email actually from Establish a Run. They sent out, it's just a newsletter each and every week. This week they talked about the FFPC. Man. My headphones started messing up again. This week they talked about the FFPC and they kind of laid out your roster requirements. So this is what we're going to talk about next, but I figured this looked really clean. So I just thought showing everybody this would be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
The FFPC playoff challenge is you're choosing 12 roster spots. As you can see on the screen, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end. And then 4 flex spots. It could be wide receiver, running back, tight end, anything you want. A defense and special teams. But you add all that up, that's only 12 teams. There's 14 teams in the playoffs. This playoff challenge was created back when there was only 12 teams in the playoffs. So now you completely ignore 2 teams, whatever 2 teams you choose to ignore. It is a PPR tight end premium, so you get 1.5 points per reception. For any tight end, it doesn't matter if it's in your tight end spot or your flex spot, you get 1.5 PPR points. For that, QB score 1 point every 20 yards passing and 4 points for a touchdown. Defensive scoring, yada, yada. And then the only other caveat is you can only choose one player from each team. One player from each team. Dan, it goes right back to it's double the points in the Super Bowl. We got to find the right Super Bowl matchup. Right. And then who is the best play in that Super Bowl? Last year, Cooper Kupp, 91% rostered in this format. He was an absolute stud. He went all the way through the playoffs. It was worth it, right? He probably should have been 100% owned in this playoff format. Normally, though, outside of that outlier, normally it's a tight end and a quarterback in the Super Bowl is what you're looking for because they're the ones that have the best opportunity to put up points. But what's your initial thoughts hearing about this format and thinking through how to build this team?
Yeah, so when I'm looking at these kinds of fantasy games, these different skill games that get put together, the first thing I try to look at is what makes this difficult and break it down from there, which I think the difficult part here is like you can't do a stack from 2 players on the same team because of the way the contest is formatted. You can't go QB wide receiver and bank on that, collection of points adding up for you. So it really adds a different element to this. And really you got to lay out all the studs for all of these teams, choose which 2 teams that you're not going to rock with, and then kind of piece it together like a puzzle on, okay, these are the guys that I value the most, who I think is going to go the furthest, and just kind of go from there. So it's really it just adds an extra layer of difficulty to it, I think, than the other one, which I think is a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm sick like that with football.
Well, yeah, that's we're degenerates. It's okay. We can say that. And the other thing, like you're setting at the beginning of the round, right? And you can't change this one. Where in my format, you get at least like kind of a second shot of like, all right, whatever. Round 1 didn't go the way I wanted it. The Bills get upset or the Bengals lose, whatever it is. You get a pivot. We don't get a pivot in this one. It's set it and forget it. Goes all the way through. I want to real quick. I have no affiliate to FFPC. There is a $200 contest. That's the actual FFPC playoff challenge. I have 3 kids, so I play in the $35 one, which is the football guys version. It's the exact same rules, though. They literally just host it just to have a cheaper version. $476,000 in prizes. There are, 16,000 entries. And then just so you see payouts, once we build this, first place winning lineup that we're about to build, $100K up top, not a bad payout for a $35 prize. So, obviously you're looking at first out of 16,000, but let's go ahead and let's build that winning lineup. That well, what did I just say? 100,000. I almost said 10,000. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Let's build that $100,000 lineup here.
We're not playing for 20th place, buddy. We're going for number 1.
That's right. Imagine out of 16,000 people getting 151st place and winning $100, 150. Like,
I'm cool with that.
I would be cool with it, but like, imagine being, that's probably fractions of a point away from winning thousands of dollars.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, you're splitting hairs at that point. At that point.
Let's as we go in here, I would say I was starting to look at some stuff. I don't build roster percentages or anything like that. There's plenty of guys out there that do. If you're interested, I can definitely give you some names. But Josh Allen Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts are not in the first round, so you will not get points for them. It's just the way it is. They're not going to be as popular as somebody like Josh Allen who can make the Super Bowl from the 2 seed. Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be popular. Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce, AJ Brown, just kind of the studs that we talked about before the show. Yep. Justin Jefferson will be pretty popular. So these are the popular guys. You can definitely play popular guys. Again, Cooper Kupp was 91% owned last year. He was obviously in the winning lineups, but you still want to get a little bit different and be a little contrarian in some spots. So let's just keep that in mind as we go through. But I'm going to let you kind of take the charge in taking your first pick here. It can be anybody.
So, I mean, like, let's look at it this way. What two teams are we not going to mess with? I think you rule the Dolphins out. I don't think there's a whole lot of chance that they go anywhere. And I think the Giants, just to be even on both sides of things, I think those are the two teams where maybe I don't touch any of the players. Maybe, I don't know, on the NFC, I almost want to say the Buccaneers are that team that I don't want to touch because I don't know how many points they're going to even generate if they even do advance.
I would definitely rather fade the Bucs than the Giants. I like the Giants, but we could we can keep it in mind. Maybe it'll fit as we build a lineup. Maybe one of the teams fit better than the other. I agree though. I don't really want anything to do with the Dolphins, not with Tua out.
No.
If Tua was in, I wouldn't mind a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle, but with no Tua, probably Skylar Thompson starting again. Hopefully, for the sake of fantasy football, hopefully it's Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm not really interested in the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, you could even look at the Ravens as a team to fade too.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because we know 6 teams are going to lose this week, so you could essentially fade 6 teams. And so when you think about the fades, knowing that many teams are going to lose, it's not as much as playing them to lose as much as it is like there's not one guy that can go off, right? If Tua was playing and we still expected the Dolphins to lose, you could play a guy like Tyreek Hill to go off in that first round because you need those points, but you know they're going to lose. So you could potentially get that with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans on the Bucs, Saquon Barkley on the Giants. If you think the Jags or the Chargers will lose, you could still get big games from Eckler, Etienne, Christian Kirk, even though you know they're going to lose. So we want to keep that in mind as well. He said, what about the 2 buys? So you still get the points next week. You just would get a 0 spot. But you have to remember, everybody's getting that 0 spot this week.
Right.
Because
there's not going to be any lineup that doesn't include a Chiefs and an Eagles player.
Right. We don't have the Titans, unless it was like the Titans last year, I felt was a decent fade because you weren't going to get points the first week and they ended up losing their game. Right. And so I felt like that was a decent fade last year. You're not fading the Chiefs or the Eagles. So you're just kind of, everybody's going to eat that 0 and then everybody will get those points next week.
Right. So, I mean, if I'm going first pick, I'm taking Austin Eckler for the Chargers. I think he's the most valuable Chargers player. I don't think we take Justin Herbert as a quarterback. I don't like what I've seen from him the last couple of weeks. Now they are playing the Jaguars. That's a favorable matchup and what have you. But I think Austin Eckler is definitely the play here if we're going Chargers as a first team to look at.
Okay, I like that. I think T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, ownership wise, will be closer than what it feels like Jamar Chase should be the higher owned one, but everything I've read over the first 3 days, a lot of people are talking about T. Higgins. So I think it'll keep Jamar Chase's ownership down a little bit. I do not like Joe Mixon. I also don't really want to play Joe Burrow, so I'm going to go Jamar Chase.
Let's go. That's where I would go. T. Higgins had 1 catch for 7 yards last week, and that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth about T. Higgins.
I think the only reason people will take Higgins is just to be different than Jamar Chase.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and knock another easy one off the board here. I think you got to take Justin Jefferson for the Vikings. I don't know that there's a more valuable player on that team. Dalvin Cook got injured last week. Maybe Madison would be a fine play if you need a running back after you kind of pick off all the wide receivers. But Justin Jefferson is going to get fed.
I mean, dude went off against the Giants just 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Over 10 receptions, over 100 and some yards, a touchdown. Absolutely smashed the Giants. And they're going to play in a dome. They might go to San Francisco. San Francisco's pass defense, the front four are great. The back 8 are not as good. Justin Jefferson could still have a field day against that defense as well. Like that pick.
It's going to start getting more difficult.
Well, I'm conflicted on our quarterback.
Yeah. No,
because
that's
I really think everybody's going to take Josh Allen, and I really want to take Jalen Hurts because, of course, we're going to miss those points. And if it's the Bills versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl, we're pretty well screwed because Josh Allen's going to get 4 weeks of points where Jalen Hurts only get 3. But I like the Eagles. I like to play this as the Eagles make the Super Bowl and the Bills don't make the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean it has to be the Chiefs, but the Bills don't make the Super Bowl. So the chalky Josh Allen is not in the Super Bowl.
I like Jalen Hurts because if you look at the 4 teams that he could face in the divisional round, I don't think any of those teams beat him. No offense to the Cowboys fan that's been with us tonight. I do appreciate you hanging around. But I don't know that the Cowboys, the Giants, the Buccaneers, or the Seahawks, if they were able to pull those upsets off, not the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have a good chance of winning that game against the Bucs. But if they're able to pull those upsets off, I don't know that they go into Philadelphia and get a win. And I think Jalen Hurts has a really good chance to put up a lot of yards on the ground and through the air against those teams, being the guy that he is. Yeah.
If you are here, let us know, who do you think we should full fade in this? What team do you think they're not going to score any points? They're not going to have any fantasy relevant teams. Their defense is not going to be great in round 1. Who do you think we should full fade? Let us know in the chat while Dan makes his next pick.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got quarterback decided. So that makes this next pick really easy for me. We got to go with Travis Kelce.
1.5 points. PPR. Absolutely. I think that's a perfect pick. Other tight ends out there still: George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz, Dawson Knox. I don't mind Evan Ingram, actually. I'm not going to pick him right now, but just kind of thinking about him.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'll mention is last year, everybody at the top had 2 running backs. That was it. It is PPR, so you're getting the points per reception. We already took 1 really good PPR running back. There's 1 other really good PPR running back on the board, and that's Christian McCaffrey. I kind of want to fade him. And this is why. Okay? We don't have to. And I'm not going to make that choice right now. I'll let you kind of be the deciding factor. But this is why. He's got an injury he's dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Eli Mitchell in a game that the 49ers really still wanted to win to get the 2 seed last week. We saw Eli Mitchell come in and vulture 2 touchdowns. I think the 49ers are going to run the ball a lot, and I think Eli Mitchell will be highly involved in the playoffs. This is a guy that Shanahan loves. He was involved before he got hurt, even with McCaffrey. He was involved last week when he came back from injury. He's not going to take away, everything, but I think he'll take away some. And Deebo Samuel was back last week. He will take away some rushing attempts, potentially some short passing from Christian McCaffrey. You add that up, plus Christian McCaffrey is going to be, 80% owned, I would assume, 70% owned in this stuff. Kind of play a little bit contrarian. So that's why I'm thinking about a fade on Christian McCaffrey. But right now, I'm going to take a guy, the running back that I love the most, and that's Tony Pollard.
Yep.
He's another pass-catching running back, another team that could potentially go 2 weeks, get 2 weeks out of him, beats the Buccaneers, plays the Eagles, and probably, what might be a shootout style. The Bucs defense is not what it used to be. I like Tony Pollard. I do think we could play 3 running backs. I think it'd be hard to play more than 3, so I want to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But a guy like Christian McCaffrey, if you say, yeah, I want him, or a guy like Saquon, like some studs like that, I'm not going to say no because it is your pick. 2 zeros already. We got 2 zeros already? Where's my zeros at? Who's getting us 0 points on this squad here? I mean, Jalen Hurts and Travis Kelce are getting a zeros in round 1, but this is not a best ball team. So we got to remember that this isn't getting to round 2. This is an accumulation of the entire playoffs.
Right.
And so, and you get ×2 in the Super Bowl. So we could get a Chiefs versus Eagles and get ×2 with Jalen Hurts and ×2 with 1.5 PPR and Travis Kelce. So keep that in mind. It's not just round 1 only.
So here's my pick. And it's because I'm agreeing with you on fading Christian McCaffrey. We got Travis Kelce in, and I don't like Kittle as a flex play because of all the other potential. I'm going with Niners defense here.
Okay.
I think they have a really good chance to put up some great points against that Seahawks team. If we're not taking Christian McCaffrey, this is probably the most valuable piece of that team.
I like that idea. It's kind of a soft fade, but if you think about it, they could play the Seahawks and just suffocate them, and then potentially the Vikings and suffocate the Vikings and Kirk Cousins on what will probably be a primetime type game.
Right.
And so,
and they have a chance to get to the Super Bowl, which defenses, I mean, they can put
it up
0 or they can put up 12 to 15, which the Niners have been putting up points in bunches all year for fantasy purposes.
Let's roll with it. Giants, Bucks, and Dolphins is who Tyler says we should be fading.
Giants, so I mean, we got to take a player off of one of those teams.
We'll have to take a player off one of them. I'm not going to go Giants yet. I love the Giants this week. I think the Giants beat.
I think they have a really good chance to upset them too. I
Vikings,
actually took them +3.
But I feel like we're kind of playing this. We're going to take Justin Jefferson. We want Justin Jefferson in round 2 as well. We want to play that a couple.
Mm-hmm.
We want to ride with that. All right. We don't have our Buffalo Bill in here yet because we didn't take Josh Allen. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the easy way out and take Steph Diggs.
I mean, that's another thing I was going to bring up, and I almost went with Steph Diggs on the last one, but I wanted to just get that defense out of the way after we had that McCaffrey conversation. But obviously, anyone who's not taking Josh Allen, they're going Stephon Diggs. But if you have the majority of people in this contest taking Josh Allen, then Diggs is a nice little contrarian kind of way to approach this lineup where he's not going to have as many people rostering him for this contest.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's what I love about you can only take one from each team. And so you're not only playing a roster your own self, but you're also trying to think about what other people are going to do.
100%. I'm going with a Jaguar. I'm ready to take a Jaguar. Travis Etienne. He's been one of my favorite fantasy running backs this year. Obviously, he can do it on the ground or through the air. And this is going to be a high-scoring game in this first round, one that the Jaguars have a chance to win. And then, if they end up winning this game, there's a good chance they come to Kansas City, which, we don't have the best rush defense.
Yep.
So good opportunity for them to put up points in bunches in this first round. And obviously we are not going to fade the Jaguars. The only other player I'd consider off the Jaguars is Christian Kirk. But I really like Etienne. If we're going to go 3 running backs, those are the 3 that I would take, assuming we're not taking Christian McCaffrey.
Yep. And that takes, for me, it takes Saquon out of the running, which is completely fine. And that would make me lean towards potentially fading the Giants. Again, a dome game. Even if we think the Giants are going to win, right, exactly what you just talked about with Travis Etienne. Etienne can go out and put the 30 points up that we need to win the whole thing, even if they lose the game.
Right.
Same thing with Austin Eckler. So I think we got 2 studs from that game. 2 studs that we need. All right. So far, we've got Hurts, Eckler, Pollard, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Travis Etienne, Steph Diggs, Travis Kelce at tight end, and the San Francisco defense. We've got 2 flex, 1 place kicker, and 2 full fades left. We are looking at Seattle, Baltimore, Miami, Tampa Bay, Giants. Is that all of them?
Miami, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, Giants.
I think that's it. Yeah, Baltimore,
Seattle.
I forgot about Seattle. Yeah,
There's
Seattle.
our 5th team.
All right, so I want to play a Giants because I want the dome action. That's the only reason. Otherwise, I don't mind like a DK Metcalf from Seattle, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, somebody like that from Tampa Bay. I think we're kind of both on board with the full fade of Miami.
Yeah.
Baltimore also has that, the bad, no Lamar Jackson, so maybe that's going to be a bad offense. I don't know. Tyler Huntley found Isaiah Likely a lot last week. Maybe he can turn that into Mark Andrews this week and get the 1.5 points there. But I'm going to go to the New York Giants, and I want to take Darius Slayton against this haphazardous Minnesota defense that has been giving it up week in and week out. And I think Daniel Jones has a field day against this Vikings offense. And I think that Darius Slayton is going to take over if I can find him. Isaiah Hodgins. Oh, I just love this. I don't know what it is about these Giants wide receivers. They're just fun. Like Isaiah Hodgins. Who are these names? Isaiah Hodgins,
Richie James.
But no, Darius Slayton is still the number one there, and I like him a lot in that game that I feel like could be a shootout.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones finds him quite often. Obviously, Slayton's entering a contract year. This is his last opportunity to put up points before that negotiation period starts. And you already said it, the Vikings defense has been known to let up big plays. They had a negative point differential to going into the final week of the season. So that defense gives up points in bunches, although Patrick Peterson picks off a lot of passes. Patrick Peterson picks off a lot of passes. Alliteration, baby. No, I think that's a solid pick. If you're going to pick a Giant, we don't want to be too reliant on running backs, although Saquon Barkley is great in the passing game as well. It's really not a bad play. So what? We're fading the Dolphins for sure. We're fading Baltimore, it sounds like. So that leaves us with Seattle and Tampa. Oh, I mean, I think you got to take.
Yeah, one flex.
Yeah, I think you got to
one
take
place kicker.
Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin has to be your flex. I like him more than although Mike Evans went off. Chris Godwin's a PPR machine. He gets more target, more volume just in general. And then Jason Myers is not a bad kicker. And I think the Niners defense, I think they're going to get stopped in the first round, the Seahawks. But the Niners defense, they're going to turn a lot of 7s into 3s if they do get driving. So
we're down to the kicker, though. Justin Tucker. I mean, this guy kicks it from a mile away. I don't mind Justin Tucker over Jason Myers. If we are to expect, but if we think that I don't know who scores more points, Baltimore or Seattle.
I mean, if we're to expect both to end in the first round, look at the opponent rank right here. I guess this is, they're both playing those same teams. So, 27 against 2. I think you got to take Justin Tucker here, the best kicker in NFL history.
And Tyler Huntley, not somebody we want to really be relying on, but again, this is a soft fade. We expect both teams to lose. We're literally just hoping one of these guys outscores the other.
Yeah.
Why not Justin Tucker?
Yeah.
All right. So there it is for the audio listeners. Let me run this down one more time. Jalen Hurts at quarterback for the Eagles. Austin Eckler and Tony Pollard and Travis Etienne are our 3 running backs. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Darius Slayton, Steph Diggs, Chris Godwin at wide receiver, and our flexes. Travis Kelce at tight end, Justin Tucker, kicker, San Francisco 49ers defense. Full fading the Seattle Seahawks and the Miami Dolphins with this lineup. That's fun. I like that a lot. I would say shout out, for me, just if you're interested in something like this, it's $35 to enter. Obviously, check out our show, but also go check out a show on YouTube called Ship Chasing. They don't need my sponsorship like to tell you guys this, but they talk about it all week long, and I'm just glued to the television in the evenings and watching their shows because they break down roster percentages. They break down, the optimal lineup, essentially, who everybody's going to play. So they break it down quite a bit. So I will be building multiple lineups throughout the week and after I kind of see their show. But hopefully this was fun for you all as well. Love building this lineup this week with you, Dan. This was a lot of fun. I went ahead and named it Another Damn Fantasy Podcast, so we know it's ours.
Let's go. 100K.
It is ours. We're going to take it down. We've been on for an hour and 15. We can shut it down and we can do one underdog draft. I'm up for it if you're up for it. Don't really care. If you got a hard out tonight, we can.
I got time, man. I mean, if you're wanting to get another mitten going, I'm in for it.
Let's do it. The mitten 4 is out, $5 on Underdog. Let's hear from our partners over at NFL Plus first. And if you're in the comments, jump in there. Let us know, how did you feel about that lineup? Do we have a chance? Just yes or no. Is that $100,000 lineup right there? Let us know yes or no in the chat as we hear from NFL Plus. Well, the NFL season is here, and so is NFL Plus. NFL Plus allows you all your local games, all the primetime games, and even coaches film with select subscriptions starting at just $4.99 per month. Click on the link in the episode description to browse options and enjoy the NFL on the go. Take the NFL anywhere you are this season and join NFL Plus today. All right. Uh-oh. Hit the wrong button every time. We are back. I'm telling you, you have a chance. That is what I like to hear. We've got a chance to take down the 100K. Let's go. You're muted. 2 weeks in a row, Dan. 2 weeks in a row, I got you.
I'm an amateur.
First
you
time.
Want to drop your promo code in here again, man?
First time. Yeah, absolutely. Join us on Underdog here. Promo code Trevor Steinbacher, all one word. Spell it all out, Trevor Steinbacher. It'll get you a deposit match for up to $100. Look, the mitten 4, the fourth one, they've already filled 3 of these bad boys. It's already up to 63.9% full. About 4 hours ago, I looked on here just to see where we were sitting. It was about 50%. So this thing is filling fast. Jump in right now, up to $100 deposit match if you use my promo code Trevor Steinbacher. Get yourself in here, rip a bunch of mittens at $5 a piece, and give yourself a chance to take down the $35,000 prize. This we have to think about first round, obviously, completely different way. This is what I love about fantasy football. We are talking about 3 completely different ways to play fantasy football in the playoffs. This is a third one. This is a best ball. I will take a piece if you need a charity of the 100,000. Tyler, you gave us you kind of talked it in there. You told the universe we were taking it down. I will make sure we treat you well. Tyler, about to welcome another child here in a couple of months. So I will treat you well.
Congratulations, Tyler.
If we take down the 100K. Let's jump into the mitten 4 here. Dan, this will be our first draft finally with the full playoff picture completed, right? We know some of these matchups. We don't know what spot we're in yet, but who are you looking to target?
No, that's awesome. I know I totally forgot about that last time we've been doing these drafts. There was still it was all speculative on a lot of those lineups. I hope you didn't take any losses with some of the mitten drafts you put together so far, but
we have a realist in here. We have a realist. We don't have a chance to take down the 100K. Might be the most real comment we've had all night. We know this, but
dang, man.
Might as well throw the bullets.
Oh, that's harsh.
Might as well throw the bullets. Hey, we got a top 3 pick. Man, remember last week
we were living in the 5-hole.
Nail a top 3 pick.
Top 3. I mean, what top 3 you're looking at? Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, right? I mean, those got to be the top 3 guys.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey has been flying up draft boards, going 101, 102, definitely flying up draft boards. So we could probably, we'll have our pick of a quarterback here for sure. And I'm okay taking Hurts or Mahomes because we know we're going to get a 0 from round 1, but we can deal with that. There's guys at the back end of this draft that we can work with.
We'll stack it up in other ways.
Yes, we will. Again, we still want to look for that Super Bowl type matchup. We take 5 each round that goes into play. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes goes first. Do you want to go Hurts or do you want to go McCaffrey?
I like Hurts. I like Hurts here.
Just roll with Hurts tonight. We've rolled with him everywhere else.
Yeah.
A guy, I mean, I talked about earlier, a guy I like a lot in the back end of this as well is still Daniel Jones. I'm still trying to sack him up against that Vikings defense in the highest scoring game of the week, highest scoring total of the week. In a dome, close matchup. It was close a couple weeks ago. Could just be enough to get us through to the next round where we could start, using Hurts.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? Target Saquon Barkley sometime in the middle?
Yeah, he goes a little bit later still. These Giants all still go later. Most people expect him to lose. Understandable. So knowing that, they kind of go later, but absolutely a little Saquon, Daniel Jones stack.
Right. Well, I mean, if we're stacking Eagles here, we just need fill-ins, right? We just need somebody fill in for that first round until we get our guys.
Yeah, and the one thing about it is it's gonna, we got to think about moving to the next round. And so how many Eagles do we want to stack up? Because we want to also have a chance to win it when we get there.
Right.
So I think 4 is probably, I was thinking 4 would be max. So I think we could get away with 3. If we do 3, I think we want to have at least 2 different AFC teams with at least 2 players in it. So we're potentially getting to the Super Bowl with 5 players that we could use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't want to take a 0 when we get to the Super Bowl. AJ Brown's still on the board here.
That's what I was thinking. Although Kelsey is looking,
Kelsey's still on the board.
Pick.
You take Kelsey and then hope that Devontae Smith falls and just stack Hurts with Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
T. Higgins, Austin Eckler, other AFC type plays. Who do you want Kelsey and try to get Smith on the back end?
It's hard to pass up Kelsey, but I think we need to if we want. I think AJ Brown yields a little bit more here.
All right, got AJ Brown. That was quick fingers there. Quick fingers. Thank you, Dan. What about me, Tyler? Come on, man. Show me some love. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that taking Kelsey there and hoping that Smith falls would have been a little bit unique. I don't think that a lot of people are going to have something like that. But yeah, who knows if he would actually came back. So I think you have to play it a little bit safe there. Get your stack. And now let's get some. I mean, I'm not interested in CeeDee Lamb at this point because I think we have to go AFC here.
Yeah. So I mean, what team are you banking on here? Cincinnati, you got 2 players there. Maybe we could pick up someone later, but the Chargers might be the better play with Eckler.
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I like that.
I love Austin Eckler. You do Austin Eckler, you could do, and then you could maybe get like a later Chiefs stack to go with it, like a Jerick McKinnon. You could get
Juju
James
or someone.
Cook if you want to do a later Bills stack, just thinking kind of take our AFC running backs. And because and then I still like the Saquon, Daniel Jones time to play into it.
Absolutely.
Austin Eckler helps us get in. I don't really think we need Miles Sanders. I think we could take like a Dallas Goedert,
yeah.
or even a Quez Watkins later on, like late if we wanted to.
Yep. For the Chargers, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, target those two, unless you're thinking Herbert might be a good target.
I don't really want to target another high price quarterback in this situation. We just want to get through, right? And but I am definitely Keenan Allen over Mike Williams after that back injury last week. Back injuries.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Scary,
what am I thinking?
Right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tyler. Love you too, man. Oh man. Yeah, I like I like him here. If he falls one more time, I like him in this spot.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and grabbing him here. I think that's a good play.
Get our two Chargers taken care of.
Boom, boom. Knocked him out. All right, so what's the next step here?
So I think next step is, we got Goddard would be hard for Goddard to fall all the way to 34. We could risk that, knowing we have Quez Watkins as like our backup plan to double stack him, to double stack Hurts.
Well, there goes Barkley.
Dang, he's going a lot earlier now.
So what?
We could go. We could go Goddard. We could go. Where are the other Chiefs running backs going? So Pacheco's going later. We could take our two Chiefs, or we could take Juju and hope that Dallas Goedert falls again, knowing nobody else has Hurts.
Well, there goes
Dallas Goedert right there.
Well, I know we were wanting some NFC players.
Well, it doesn't have to be NFC necessarily, but we do have to get a quarterback at some point.
Right.
I just like that quarterback.
Yeah. I was just going off of the Giants idea there, and flipping it for maybe the Cowboys here, taking Pollard and hoping Prescott comes back around.
Or do we take – oh, God, I did not – son of a – oh.
Pollard.
Whew. Oh,
quick
man,
fingers.
I had it queued up.
Quick fingers.
Holy crap. Oh, man. I had a slight panic attack. I thought we were about to take Quez Watkins in the freaking 5th round, man. Woo.
That was a nice break.
Dang. Okay. All right. So I like where your head was at.
Yeah. What about Schultz? Is Schultz available as a tight end?
Pollard helps us get through. So I don't necessarily. The reason I mentioned Jones essentially was just because I like him as a quarterback this week, like as a one-off, just to help us get through. I think he legitimately has a chance to be the best quarterback this week. I don't necessarily want to build a NFC team to go along with the Eagles. I would like to build the AFC teams like the two Chargers, which is why I was mentioning Juju. Like we could take a Juju last time and then maybe like a Pacheco this time. So you have two Chiefs, two Chargers to go into the Super Bowl with your 3 Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
So now you have 5 players. I think Pollard's fine because Pollard's going to help us get through that first round.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily love taking a Dak whenever we already spent so much on Jalen Hurts. And we can get Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones later. And both of those guys, even naked, could help us get through to the next round.
Right. So Pacheco here is what you're thinking, maybe?
So we could do a Pacheco and then like a Tony. Right? So we have the 2 Chiefs players to go to the Super Bowl with the Eagles players. And then from there, that leaves us 3 spots available. We could do a stack with Daniel Jones, just assuming Jones goes off, he's going to carry one of these wide receivers with him. Or we could just go Daniel Jones and then take 2 one-off wide receivers that we think could absolutely smash in round 1, thinking Well, I guess one of them needs to be Quez Watkins. So we have one more spot essentially then that we'd have open that we just want to take one guy that we think could absolutely smash in round one.
Yeah.
Because right now with taking the Chiefs players, we have 4 guys that aren't going to play in round one.
Right. So I guess
it makes me kind of not want to take Quez Watkins, honestly.
I wouldn't blame you. What are the wide receivers looking like? I mean, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Christian Kirk. I think he's a good round one guy to look at. Zay Jones, even if we don't get Kirk. I like Tyler Lockett as a potential. But if we're trying to stick AFC with that for round one, then
Zay Jones is going really late. We could. I don't really want to stack up the Jags if we already have Chargers because one of those 2 teams lose. I don't mind one-offs, right? But I don't want to.
Yeah. I
was going to say we can do Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones, but I don't really like that a lot. I mean, I like Christian Kirk here. If he falls one more. You want to take Kirk here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and snag him. Then we
Kirk.
Can get rid of Zay Jones here? Or did you want to come back around and grab him still?
No, not really. Not since we have the Chargers. Pollard, Jacksonville. I'm trying to think of who else playing in round one. Eckler, Pollard, Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk. So we have 4 round one guys. We need a round one quarterback.
Dak and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, or Daniel Jones if you want to go with him.
I think there's enough quarterbacks on the board still, right? We could probably pick our favorite non-quarterback play and then take one of whoever's left at the end.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because this guy's already got 2 quarterbacks. This guy's got Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy. They might take a second quarterback. They might not. But even if they do, again, Dak, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence are 3 guys. I don't think all 3 of them will get taken. So and there goes Tom Brady. So who's our favorite non-quarterback on the board for round one? Could it be one of these Giants guys? Like Isaiah Hodgins? Darius Slayton?
Darius Slayton, if he's up there, I don't think that's a bad pick. I like him over Hodgins, I think.
Oh, sorry.
There goes Hodgins.
We got Hodgins. Well, we took Hodgins. I couldn't get Slayton above him, but I don't mind that. And then especially if we're going to end up with Daniel Jones here, potentially at the end.
Yeah.
To say that's how he's going to get there. I'll put Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence because we have a quarterback or a wide receiver for both of those guys. But that gives us enough guys. And then it gives us outs. If we can get through round one, they take the top 2 out of this. So that helps us, right? Because now we only have to beat 4 other teams, not 6 or not 5 other teams. And then once we get out, now we have outs. We have a Chargers-Chiefs game in round 2 potentially. And we have, the winner of that game goes to, AFC Championship and hopefully to the Super Bowl against the Eagles. We're sitting in a pretty good spot. Jimmy Garoppolo going. T-Law over Jones. T-Law over Jones this week. These are the 2 highest scoring games on the week. So it's not
for the totals.
Yep.
48.5 for Giants. Vikings 47.5 for Chargers and Jaguars. I think next closest is Buccaneers Cowboys at 45.5.
All right, before you answer this, T-Law or Jones, which one do you like? I'm Jones over T-Law this week, but I can get talked into Lawrence in this. Almost, high flying because we want Eckler and Allen, so we kind of want that game to be high flying anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm T-Law in this scenario. I think
I'll let Tyler break the tie since he already said T-Law over. Jones. Dan, have you drafted on DraftKings best ball $3 best ball?
I have not. No, I have not. I do play some DraftKings games, mostly just the classic format, during the regular season. But really, this year was the first time I got into daily fantasy. You know, and still learning all the time. Mostly redraft, mostly dynasty was my experience with fantasy football coming into this year for sure.
ADP with Dan. All right, one more time, real quick for the audio listeners. We took Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown, so just kind of skinny stacked Hurts. We took Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk in the skinny stack. Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, Keenan Allen, Kadarius Toney, and Isaiah Hodgins. So we really built a Philadelphia Super Bowl team with Hurts, AJ Brown, and brought back. We kind of targeted the Chiefs and the Chargers as the bring back there. We're playing a bunch of one-offs after that. That still gets us 4 out of the 5. 4 out of the 5 probably doesn't get us to the top. But, if it's a Kadarius Toney and he blows up or something in the Super Bowl, we're definitely live to get some of that top money, just maybe not the top because we won't have 5 guys in the Super Bowl. But I'm okay with that. We need to get through the first round still too. So it's hard to stack the Chiefs and the Eagles. That's for sure.
People are grabbing them left and right. I mean, even if it didn't make sense with their draft strategy, they were taking them.
Yeah. A lot of one-off pieces with some of those guys, with some of those round one bye teams.
And I wonder too, how much of that is them, because everyone can see what everyone's taking, right? How much is that blocking the other teams around you from getting that stack, instead of, because they know they can get the players that they're trying to stack later in the draft. So
yeah, like Ben taking Dallas Goedert, that one
right
would have been our third Eagle. Like it didn't make sense, but
right before us, it had to be a block. It had to be.
It didn't make sense at all. Well, this was a lot of fun. I knew I was going to have a lot of fun here. We've gone over an hour and a half, and it doesn't even feel like we've been on here for an hour. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully, even if you're listening after the fact, hit that like button, show some love, subscribe to the Stadium Rant YouTube channel if you would. Got a lot of great things going on over at Stadium Rant and stadiumrant.com. And of course, Dan and I, we've still got some other action for you here this playoff season. I think we want to talk about, kind of recap the season a little bit, go through some of our early season ranks and how they fared for the season. So kind of hold ourselves accountable. Lamar Jackson being the number 2 quarterback did not work out for me. Injuries and contract disputes is what I'm going to chalk it up to. But, follow me on Twitter at TrevorS_FF. I'm live every Friday night. I will be talking the DFS slate this Friday night on the Stadium Rant YouTube channel, 8:15. It's going to be an awesome slate. 2-gamer on Saturday, 3-gamer on Sunday. You get the showdown slate Monday night. It's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. And so, come on, enjoy the show on Friday night. We'll talk through some more DFS, maybe rip some more drafts. I don't know. I'll have a lot of fun. Probably won't go an hour and a half by myself, but sometimes I am known to do that. So come join me on Friday night at 8:15 Central.
Absolutely. And you can find me on Twitter at Dan_TF40. That's for the Fastest 40, my other podcast that I do with my good friend Trey Lawrence. We both host that up. Episodes during the season will typically drop Wednesday for all 32. And then Fridays is a Chiefs episode, Let's Chief. This Friday, we will be dropping both of those episodes this Friday. So one you'll get in the morning for the all 32, and then you'll get the Red Friday edition Chiefs on noon Central Time for the lunch hour. So definitely make sure you check that show out. A lot of fun talking just general NFL and analysis with that. So also, make sure you follow NFL on Stadium Rant podcast. That's where you're going to get those team-centric podcasts from Stadium Rant, the presenter of this show, ADP. And follow ADP on Twitter as well, at ADP_podcast SR and at Stadium Rant HQ for those updates. Both Twitter accounts will blast, when we go live for this show, when we go live for some of the other great shows that we have here, as well as that content that gets looped into all of those shows. So make sure you're following along, and thanks everybody for listening. Good luck in the playoffs.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm